Claudia here from Create with Claudia. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today we're going to be doing my stacked hearts. It's here on the wall. It's called Stacked Hearts. It's a great quilt for Valentine's Day or just if you feel like making something fun for somebody special. It's about 24 by 31, so it's a nice small piece. It's an easy quilt to put together. I do have all of the instructions on this video, but if you'd like, I will have a PDF on my website, www.createwithclaudia.com, and you can find a tutorial there as well. It has step-by-step photos. I also just wanted to take a real quick second and show you I have a new studio layout. I got a sit and stand table, which for my purposes works really well. I can raise and lower it when I'm shooting different size blocks or quilts, that sort of thing. It really came in handy for this project because this one's a little bit big for my camera and the tripod I have, so it worked out perfectly. I also got some bookshelves. I didn't get those. I actually repurposed them from another room, so we put our game somewhere else. But I just felt like a little bit of a change. I thought I'd just make it a little bit fancier. I really like the way it is. And this way, I hang my quilt or the project that I'm working on. I can put it right there so everybody can see it. I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. I always love new subscribers. And I am on social media at Create with Claudia. So go check out all the things that I post. So let's get ready to make this Stacking Hearts wall quilt and enjoy the video. Okay, like I said in the introduction, this wall hanging, has a lot of pieces in it, but it does come together very easily. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you all of the cutting, and I'm going to start with the background fabric. So of your background fabric, and in my case it's these polka dots, you're going to need the following. You're going to need 6 pieces cut 4.5 by 7.5, so 6 pieces of that size. You'll need 1 strip cut 1.5 inches by 6.5 inches, 2 strips cut 1.5 inches by 9.5 inches, 1 strip cut 1.5 inches by 12.5 inches, 2 squares cut 3.5 inches, 5 squares cut 4.25 inches, 1 square cut 3.25 inches, and 3 squares cut 2.25 inches. So that's what you need of the background fabric, and you'll see there's a little diagram up there too to sort of lay it out for you. Okay, from the fabric for your small heart, that's the one on top, you're going to need the following cuts. You're going to need 3 squares cut 2.25 inches. You'll need 2 squares cut 1.5 inches, 1 strip cut 1.5 inches by 6.5 inches, and 1 strip cut 4.5 inches, 4.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and then 1 square cut 3.25 inches. So that's of the small or the top heart. Okay, now we're going to cut the medium heart. That's that center heart. And isn't the strawberry fabric fun? I just fell in love with it at the store and had to buy it. So here it is. It's perfect for this project. So what you're going to need to do to cut, the cutting that you need for the medium heart is the following. You're going to need 3.25 inch squares. You're going to need 2 squares cut 3.25 inches, 2 squares cut 2.5 inches, 1 strip cut 2.5 inches by 12.5 inches, 1 strip cut 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches, and 2 squares cut 4.25 inches. Okay, so that's for the medium heart. Okay, last but not least is that large heart, and that's the one on the bottom of the stack. And for that one, you're going to need to cut the following fabric pieces. You're going to need 5 squares cut 4.25 inches, 2 squares cut 3.5 inches, 1 strip cut 3.5 inches by 18.5 inches, 1 strip cut 3.5 inches by 12.5 inches, and then 1 strip cut 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches, and that's for that large heart, the bottom heart. I used the large fabric for the border as well. I like that dark fabric. I think it'll pop on the white. And then for the corners, I used the small fabric, which is the lightest pink. So for the border, you're going to need to cut the following. You need 4 squares cut 2.5 inches square, 2 strips cut 2.5 inches by 27.5 inches, and then 2 strips cut 2.5 inches by 20.5 inches. So 27.5 inches long, 20 inches long, 20.5 inches long. Yeah, 20.5 inches long, 27.5 inches long, and both by 2.5 inches wide. So that's the cutting that you need, and now we're going to start assembling this top. We're going to do it in sections. There are actually 4 sections, plus then you add the borders. So I'm just going to start with section 1. Okay, so before we piece the sections together, we have to make a lot of half square triangles. And I'm going to tell you what you need to pair up. It's all these different squares, and that way you'll get, and you can see it up on the screen right now. I have a whole diagram. So you're going to need the following pairs. You're going to need to pair up 3 squares each of the 2¼ inch background fabric with the 2¼ inch small heart fabric. You need 3 pairs of those. 1 pair of the 3¼ medium heart fabric with one of the 3¼ inch small heart fabric. So 1 pair of those 2 fabrics. 1 pair of the 3¼ medium heart fabric with a 3¼ inch background fabric. 1 pair of the 4¼ inch background fabric with the 4¼ inch medium heart fabric. 1 pair of the 4¼ medium heart fabric with 1 pair of the 4¼ large heart fabric, and 4 pairs of the 4¼ large heart fabric with the 4¼ inch background fabric. And that's a lot, I know. That's why I put the diagram up for you. Okay, so to make your half square triangle, you're going to take one of your pairs. In this case, I have the 4¼ inch background with the 4¼ inch large heart. And what you're going to do is you're going to draw a diagonal line on the back of the lighter square of fabric. Now, I've already done that, like so. I just took my ruler and a pen. Now, I would not normally do it in pencil, and I'll just write over it again, just so you can see it. And you just take, normally I would do this in a water-soluble marker, but I don't have one that's dark enough to show on camera, so I like to do that. So what you're going to do then is you're going to take your other fabric, you're going to match them up right sides together. It's really easy to make these, they're sort of fun. I love making half square triangles. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew down 1/4 inch on each side of that line that I just drew. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back, and then I'll show you where we go from there. Okay, so you can see where I've sewn down 1/4 inch. It's actually sort of hard to see, but there's that drawn line and the 1/4 inch seams there. Maybe you can see it better on this side. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my rotary cutter and my ruler and cut down that drawn line. Watch your fingers. Close that up all the time. So there you go. Now I have 2 half square triangles. I'm going to press these to the dark. And then the last thing I need to do is trim them down. So I will be right back to show you what they look like. Alright, so here's one of them. It's been pressed to the dark, and I need to trim it down now. And these were the 4.5 inch, keep saying that. These were the 4¼ inch squares. And once they're sewn, you're going to trim those down to 3.5 inches square. So to do that, you need a ruler, and this one I love. It has a little, has a diagonal line drawn on it, and I just match that up with that diagonal line. And the first thing I want to do is just trim off this corner to make a nice sharp corner. And I just line it up. And there we go. There's my nice sharp corner. That's going to be my starting point for when I cut. So we're going to line that up again, and we're going to find 3.5 inch measurement point right here. Here's where it matches. 3.5 inches there, and then it has a nice little lines to help guide you. And then you just line it up, even it up with that edge you just cut, and then trim off. And there you have it. There's your 3.25. Man, I'm messing up today. There's your 3.5 inch square, and that's your half square triangle. So that's ready to go. I'm going to cut down the other one, and let me tell you though really quickly what the cutting is for all of the different sizes. So for the largest pair, the ones that the squares were 4.25 inches, and you pair them up to make the half square triangles, you trim all of those down to 3.5 inches. For all of the pairs where the squares were 3¼ inches, once you've made your half square triangle and it's time to trim it down, you're going to trim those down to 2½ inches square. And for those really small ones, the ones where it was 2¼ inch fabric squares, and then we made the half square triangles out of those, you're going to trim those down to 1½ inches square. And I know it's a little small, but it works out just fine. So when I come back, what we're going to do is we're going to start putting together the sections. Alrighty, so here's section 1, and what we're going to do, it's all laid out for you, and then what we do is we're going to piece this center section first. We're going to piece this all together first, and we're going to do it by rows. We're going to piece all these little squares together. These are those 1½ inch squares. This one as well. Then then sew those together, this to this, and then together. So this is all one sort of square, forms a square. And then you're going to add the two sides, and even though it doesn't look like it's going to fit now, I promise you it will. So I'm going to go do that and show you how it turns out. Alrighty, so here's section 1. You can see that heart forming, that cute little pink heart. Okay, so here's section 2, and this is when it gets a little bit trickier with the placement. You can see how I've laid it out. I'm going to spread these out a little bit. The big thing is, here's the bottom of the smaller heart, so you want to make sure you put those two half square triangles that have the small heart fabric and the medium heart fabric together like so, and make sure those are on the outside. That way that heart will come together nicely when we sew the whole thing together. So now I'm going to piece this again like we did the last time. I'm going to piece the center section first by row, and then put these two wings on the sides, and then we're ready to do the section 3. So here's section 3. This is the largest heart on the bottom, and here these are the largest triangles that you need. And once again, watch that placement here, because that's going to go on the top, and that's the bottom small pink heart of that medium heart. This down. It's going to be too big. Again, you're going to just sew that middle section first, and then add. So there's your section 1. There's your section 2. These are the strips that are 1½ inches by 9½ inches. And a little fuzz on there. And then when we're done with that, I'll show you how that looks. And then we have one more section to go, and then we put the whole top together. And here's the completed section 3. Okay, so here's the 4th section, the last section. And again, we're going to sew up that center part first, row by row. And these are the 3½ inch squares that we cut earlier, the half square triangles and the squares. This is that 1½ by 12½ inch strip, and these are those wings that are 4½ by 7½ inches, and this is 3½ by 6½ inches. So that's our 4th and final section. We're going to piece them together, and then I'll show you how the whole quilt top comes together. Okay, so here are all the sections laid out, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew each section together, and then we'll add the borders, and we will be done. Okay, so here it is. Here's the top, and the last thing we need to do are add the borders. There are 2 long borders, 2 short, and then the 4 corner squares. And what you're going to do is add the 4 corner squares. Let me just get those out. You want to add, I like to add my corner squares to the shorter strip. Let's see, here we go. Basically you would add 2, one on each end. Let's see, like so. One on each end of the shorter strips, so there'll be 2 strips, and there'll be, you have 2 shorter strips, and you're going to add 1 square to each end of that, the shorter strips. Then the first thing you want to do is on the long sides of this wall hanging is add a long strip. Let me get one of those. And you're going to put that on first on both sides, and then put the 2 shorter strips with the corner blocks on the top and the bottom. And then you're ready to quilt it. Okay, so we're back, and here it is. Here's the finished wall. Well, it's actually the top. It's not the entire finished quilt, but it's the finished top that we were just putting together. This is how this one looks. And again, this is the one that, the first one I made. This one's a little bit more muted colors. I love the way this came together. It's an easy quilt to put together. There are a lot of parts to it, but you need to stay organized. And that's really the key to putting it together, but it's easy to put together. You can put this together in a few hours, and you can even quilt it in a few hours. I use this the same binding here as that gray, and on this one I would probably use the white. I like the binding on my pieces to really pop on most of them, so I always try to find a color that sort of pops against the border. Don't forget this pattern is available on my website for free, www.createwithclaudia.com, so go over there and check it out. You can print out the PDF, and I also have a step-by-step photo tutorial. I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. I always love new subscribers. Thank you so much. And I am on social media at Create with Claudia, where I post things daily. So thanks so much for joining me, and have a great day.